Since a week ago Tuesday, there are 2 new members on this town board. Also, there's an abundance of new information, including letters, reports, and more. Mr. Baker's here to bring some of it to us this evening. I've since heard about communications that apparently occurred before we voted on the 24th of January that were never even provided to me. That's fundamentally wrong. There's a lot of additional information available for consideration and evaluation at this time, which was not available for consideration and evaluation on January 24th. That's a fact. We did not even at that point in time, we as a board, and I as a member of it, made what I will describe as an impulsive decision. Others have described it as something that we grieved and talked about, and it was a thought-provoking thing, and we spent hours and hours studying for the past 2 years. Not my vision of it. That was a very impulsive decision, and it was not based upon a recommendation or consideration of any of the experts that we have retained at your expense in this matter. Furthermore, the unintended consequences of the action of the former town board, of which I am a member, on January 24th, are now at hand. Multiple requests by owners of property in the town of Waukesha to flee the town and annex to the city of Waukesha are now in full bloom. It's a reality, it's a regrettable reality. It's one that could and should have been anticipated by those of us who took that vote that night. Some of those requests have already been approved. Others are pending, and there are more to come. We are in the process, the de facto border. That has a lot of sex appeal. Sounds great. The unintended consequences of that is we are hemorrhaging town land at this point in time at an alarming rate when it was our intention to try to seal our border. That's the definition of unintended consequences. The goal was noble, the goal was good, the reality is disaster. Since January 24th, I've had the opportunity to discuss the decision to exclude the majority of the town of Waukesha from the water and sewer service area with many of our residents. They have overwhelmingly told me that they believe that the former town board made the wrong decision. I wholeheartedly agree. I believe that it would be a tremendous mistake to allow this moment to pass without taking the opportunity before us to reconsider the action that the former town board has taken. Thank you.
Brian, you mentioned that it was reprehensible and disappointing to you that your fellow board members exercised their right in not seconding your motion. And I'd like to explain why I did that. Because we weren't able to talk about your reconsideration.
Excuse me, Joe, it's past history. Let's move on.
It's actually not past history.
The issue at hand is...
It's not past history.
The issue at hand is to reconsider. Obviously, you don't want to do that. Obviously, the expert that I brought in, I asked Mr. Baker here, he's a nationally accredited expert that the town had hired for the last 2 years, and we relied on his opinion up until the point that you disagree with it.
That's twice now, Mr. Mayor, that you have squelched my ability to voice, and both times, may I say, to Mr. Fisher's detriment. Maybe perhaps if you would stop a minute and let me explain to Mr. Fisher something, you might find yourself wishing that you hadn't had moved on to the agenda.
And I would prefer not to bicker. I would like to move on, Joe, and that's what the rest of the town would like.
John, let him talk. No different, but I just want to correct you one other thing. The motion was seconded.
Yes, it did.
So I'm quibbling, but fair enough. Have at it.
On April 16th, look at your calendar, so Tuesday, April 16th, there were 2 members of the town board because the new board hadn't been sworn in yet. I sent an email at 9:04 to the Wisconsin Towns Association attorney Carol Naraki. The agenda got posted and this item appeared on last week's agenda and I had it in my possession. And I asked Ms. Naraki about the ability to reconsider this item. And she said a reconsideration for parliament procedures purposes is different than just a reconsideration of an issue previously decided by the board. Now, I won't make you read or listen to all the rest of it, but I'll summarize. She said that the town board did not need to pull the parliamentary trick of suspending our rules only to rediscuss the issue, that it was perfectly acceptable and legal for us to bring this issue back and discuss it. So had I had the opportunity to say that to you, Brian, we would have certainly discussed it during that time. It would not have been a reconsideration of the January 24th action, but it would have been a reconsideration of the current map as it existed. But that agenda item has been closed by our chairman, so we really can't go back.
Well, I guess let me respond to that. Let me back up on a couple of things. In our community here, I think, can respect and understand people who have differences of opinion, who can share them with each other in a civil manner, who can respect the decisions of the majority. At the end of the day, I'm willing to do that, but here's my disappointment. And I don't want to dig up the old bones, but we had in past months budget amendment resolutions for 2012. You've been going strutting around town telling everyone that you played parlor games in order to bring that back and some shifty move with Attorney De La Mora to suspend the rules and everything. I held my nose through that and didn't object to it and let you bring it back. Last week, Thursday, do you recall who made the motion to table this matter? You did? Correct?
Yeah.
And you remember who seconded it?
No.
Well, I'll refresh your memory. I did, out of a courtesy to you, because you wanted to go and chat to the city, and that's fine. So I'm willing to play ball with you. Now we're going to get lost in some quibbly procedural thing. I guess, help me out. Has the moment passed us by, or can we reconsider this or not? That's a very straightforward question. Have we slipped up on this procedurally, that moment is gone? I thought that's why people came here to hear us talk tonight.
I can address that. No, we did not. This was not a procedural one-upmanship, if you will. The board took action on January 24th, and the motion on January 24th accepted a written offer by the city of Waukesha without condition or amendment. We accepted it in a public meeting, and we communicated our acceptance both verbally and in writing in the days to come. Go to any law school and they will tell you that that is the definition of a binding contract. I have that legal opinion direct from Dean Lang that that is in fact a binding contract. Subsequently, the city has attempted on a number of occasions to withdraw their offer that we contractually obligated them and us to on January 24th, and we have dutifully notified them that that is not an option, that we accepted those terms and that that contract still exists. If we reconsider the decision that was made on January 24th, that action of reconsidering would make null and void the offer letter that we accepted on from November 8th on January 24th, because after, and this was a very important part, after the offer and the acceptance of the offer was made, and we notified them, anytime they pull that offer off of the table, if we take additional action upon it, we invalidate the agreement, and those times when they tried to take it off the table would become the current agreement for which we would act upon. So, and that's not my legal opinion, Dean Lang, okay? He's a town attorney, does that for us. So we cannot, well, we could, but we would take a written agreement with the city that all these annexations that we're talking about, that are happening, which I'm sorry that they're happening, but they're developers that would eventually go anyway. State statute pays us 5 years worth of their tax base. That agreement that we obtained on January 24th gives us 20 years of that tax base. So is it worth not reconsidering, but yet still being able to rediscuss? Certainly is. To me, 15 years times every property that leaves, whether they're agriculture, what have you. So there's a very good reason for not going along with you, and it's based on that.
Well, I guess I'll simply ask it this way, and I appreciate your giving all that legal advice, which frankly I didn't understand half of it. But that said, is your position, blowing all the smoke out of the air, that you, and I guess 2 other board members here, are unwilling to reconsider that decision? What's the purpose in rediscussing it or rehashing it if you're unwilling to reconsider it? That's where I'm drawing a blank.
The goal of Monday's meeting and the outcome of Monday's meeting was not to reconsider the decision that was made on January 24th. We approved on January 24th a water service supply area. That area was designated by the map sitting behind Brian. The goal of going to the city and the outcome of that was to discuss a water service supply plan. Now, I don't mean to split hairs, but the map is part of the plan. The difference being that when we approved the map, it was either X or Y. It had no ability for any contingencies or exceptions. The plan has lots of room to say, hey, we want this, you get Great Lakes water, we're good with that. Oh, by the way, if you get Great Lakes water, you get out of the shallow aquifer, so the wells that you've got, you don't use, you get the redundant supply, which is stuff that we worked on with the prior board, getting proof that the DNR would allow them to use their current deep aquifer wells and get out of the 3 that they're in currently. All of that stuff comes part of the plan. And any of that stuff changes, we have the ability to say, we don't like the plan anymore. And that protects our current water supply from being taken from us. You know, we hear about fear-mongering and the heads are shaking. Doug Chirkauer, who's a professor of hydrogeology at UWM, in 2007 provided the town board a study. He studied the Lathers property, and he looked at a 1.5 million to 3 million gallons per day withdrawal from that one property. He said within 1 year, we would see drawdowns of 15 feet. And within 15 years, we could see drawdowns in as much as 38 feet in the aquifer. So go home, drop the stick down your well, see where your water level is, and think that if they put just 2 high-capacity wells with 1.5 million gallons per day capacity, that we would see our water level drop. You don't have to take my word for it, it's on town website, Dr. Chirkauer, 2007, 38-foot possibility of drawdown. He describes adverse impacts to the Vernon Marsh, the Fox River, and it goes on and on and on and on. The city even references it in their 58-page plan. They don't call it about the town of Waukesha. They skip over us and talk about those adverse impacts that happen in Muskego and McGuanago, but they don't talk about the adverse impacts that would happen to the town of Waukesha water supply.
Can I just ask directly to you, Joe, a very simple question, a very direct question, and I'm just looking for a very simple and direct answer. Is it your position and the research you've done, and you're basically providing legal and procedural advice here, that this town board, the 5 of us sitting here tonight, are prohibited from reconsideration of the water service supply area? I'm looking for just a simple answer. Is that what you are telling us?
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm reporting legal advice that was given to me, and I've clearly stated the source of which it was provided to me. So I'm not getting boxed in on that. Your question, though, however, is whether or not we have the ability to reconsider the January 24th. Under the guise of the decision that was made on January 24th, you presented that as a potential option by trying to suspend the rules, and that was denied. Yeah, you can continue to try that. Practically speaking, if you want to talk kumbaya, do I want to revisit the issue and discuss it? That was the whole reason that I went on Monday to sit down with those folks, and the whole reason that I've spent the last week, 2 weeks, trying to put this issue together in a win-win relationship with us. I would love to be able to sit down with Ed Henschel and the city and work out a win-win plan, but I have to first and foremost, I believe my primary duty is to protect the current water supply we have from overexposure to use by the implementation of high-capacity wells. And that's what I'm attempting to do.
To answer you, Brian, being a new supervisor, being a town resident, it sort of upsets me with the stuff that's going on. I'm getting calls from executives trying to convince me to change my mind because I heard it again tonight. Why isn't the whole town going in? Because Genesee and Delafield are all going in. Well, if you look at the map, the third one from the left with all the green with the little brown, that little tip going down on the left-hand side is Genesee's portion. Ours is that whole big green below the city. That's one issue I have. The other issue I have is, last week was brought up the list of people that were going to annex into the city if we don't go their way. Now tonight it was brought up again with even higher numbers. Well, I took that list and I plotted all those properties out. And I got them on the map right here. Now, if Ms. Fuller would have announced these are the people that would like to annex if they could, that would have been totally different. But a lot of the people, I narrowed this list down to about, and it's even being generous, $10 million. All the other properties that were on that list were companies that I went and personally talked to that have no intention on going into the city because they're already in city water and sewer. And all you people out there, if you live somewhere where you had the amenities without the tax base, would you move into the city? I wouldn't. I talked to a number of the companies that are on Industrial Drive that are in the part where they have city water and sewer now. And they were more or less misled. One of the people, I'm not going to point out names, one of the people thought he was putting his name on that list because he was told that's the list of people that wanted the service area expanded. He was never told about annexing into the city. And then if you take into consideration all the people, she's got people's properties on this list that are east of 164 and Town Line Road. How are they going to get annexed into the city there? It's just...
Thank you, Larry. Well, the reason that Mr. Baker was here was to supply us with his opinion, which he has been doing for the last 2 years. It's unfortunate that this isn't going to work out that way. I would say let's move forward, take a vote, and folks can get home.
Make the motion.
Is there a motion?
I don't know what motion we've been.
We are on G.
I would make a motion requesting that a counter offer to the letter dated April 25th, which Ed Henschel provided us today, be drafted and submitted, which would include entry of the entire territorial land known as the town of Waukesha into the water service area. That counteroffer would include a significant different list in there, and one of those pieces would be that the city of Waukesha would agree to close and cap their current shallow aquifer wells, and that they would not request or drill any high-capacity wells in the town of Waukesha land during the time in which they are recipients of Lake Michigan water. This is not a complete, I'm not saying that that's some complete letter. I believe that that conditionary letter, we attempted on the prior board on September 18th, we attempted a very similar offer to the city that was signed by all 5 supervisors, 4 and the chairman. And I'd like to re-engage the city and ask for that input, whether we all 5 have a workshop and that would be a public venue, or if we want to do this in a smaller, I would not prefer to do it in a smaller issue. I would like to do that workshop as 5 board members at night, in public, right in front of you all, so that you can see exactly what we're asking, see that it is very reasonable, see that it protects you and your current water supply, and also avails those who have the fear that their well would run into a problem, that we would have no other option, and it would provide that. And that would be, I guess my motion would be to get agreement as a board. We could set a time and a date to sit down very quickly and make that counteroffer to the city, and that's my motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I would ask, and this is straight in our town ordinances, I would ask, and it may take a minute to have Joe put that in writing and with Aaron, so we can take a look at it, so we understand clearly what the motion is. And I don't know whether you want to have somebody second it first, you can move ahead. I'd like to see it in writing. So
Well, why don't we just make it simple and clear? You ready, Aaron?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I will make a motion that the town board establish a meeting date no later than April 30th. We'll just say April 30th. I'm busy, but I'll change. That we would submit a written counteroffer to the city of Waukesha's letter dated April 25th. And that meeting would be an open public workshop. There's a difference in the workshop. There won't be citizen comments and stuff like that. To draft that letter offer and submit it back to the city before the 30th. Get it the next day, but I think that's the best we can do. I'm available Monday night too if we want to switch to Monday.
Would anybody be opposed to the 29th instead of the 30th?
I'd be
Give them their win, their time.
It's a very important issue. I'd be absolutely fine. I'd meet on something. Guy would be mad, but I'd meet on something.
Can you, okay, and can you then print that up so we can, yes, so you please.
We want to use, yeah.
Yes, and then you have to push print so we can.
I got you.
Is that a substitute motion for the previous motion you made?
Yes,
And-
yes, I'll make that my substitute motion. There was no second on that first.
Okay, is there a second on this one?
There was a second. There is a second.
Maybe a legal opinion at this point in time. My vote today will in no way, shape, or form negate what was voted upon January 24th. True or false?
You had multiple resolutions that were submitted by Supervisor Banske. At this point, if I understand what will be printed out, the essence of the motion is to schedule a meeting to consider submitting a counter proposal to a letter that apparently has been received by the town, which I have not seen, in an effort to continue discussion with regards to the subject matter of the letter. Since I don't have knowledge of that, I cannot really give you a yes or no answer.
I guess what concerns me is Supervisor Banske had brought up an issue earlier when you indicated the city would dishonor the contract, or for if we attempted, maybe you can better explain that.
Again, this is not my legal opinion, this is from Attorney Dean Lang. And his description to me, paraphrasing, was that we would not be reconsidering anything that was transacted on the 24th of January. That was a motion and an approval of an offer letter and a corresponding water service supply map. We are negotiating a water service supply plan, of which we don't have yet. I mean, we haven't read it, right? So we need to read it, get it, read it, and negotiate whether or not we find its terms and conditions acceptable. This letter that has been provided to us today by the city was a request of mine that they, and John's, that they resubmit this, that the conditions that were established in the January 24th agreement would be extended so as to not twilight out, so they'd be extended to the new action with regard to this plan. But that, my understanding from Dean Lang, that action stands on itself, that contract stands on itself, that we haven't amended or negotiated, because we are not adjusting this supply map. We are now accepting a plan, and the letter from the DNR that you received refers to the fact that if the plan is unsuccessful, that the existing map, which was that January 24th action, that the water service supply area would revert back to that map. So that establishes that that is a, again, his opinion was that established that that was a firm position that was not being altered or readdressed.
Joe, here's I guess a very practical concern that I've got, and maybe my fellow board members, maybe Attorney De La Mora, maybe people in the audience are tracking better than I am tonight, and I'm attempting to understand what it is that you're proposing to do. But I guess a real concern that I've got, you're sharing with us conversations that you have had with Attorney Lang. Far be it for me to know why you're consulting with him. That's the first I've heard. And we've got Town Attorney De La Mora sitting here at Aaron's right-hand side. I mean, this seems to me like this is getting more complicated by the minute. If you want to have a workshop to write this letter, I don't even understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. I'm not trying to be difficult or argumentative. Maybe Dean Lang should write a letter or something, but I mean, now we've got two attorneys involved. Why did you turn to him?
Brian, let's just assume Joe's correct, and let's make the assumption that there is a contract somehow out there.
Okay.
We'll just make that assumption for the moment. What we're trying to do is take this letter that we've all got today and turn it into something that we can work with, get it to the city prior to the 30th deadline, get in the water service area with some protections for this shallow aquifer that we rely on.
And I have no problem with that whatsoever. I guess the only question I have moving forward, then shall we rely on Attorney Lang's advice with this, or shall he help draft the letter? Where not? How do we get this done correctly? What is your suggestion?
I don't think Dean Lane's going to be here. I think Hector's going to be here, or Doug. We're going to draft this thing hopefully on Monday night, get it to the city.
Okay. Is that where you want to go?
So I guess I got a question, like Mike brought up. By us doing this without sending it to him or it being agreed on, does it change the other contract we have with him?
No, as Joe had stated, what we're working on is a water service plan. A water service plan includes a bunch of different components. This is something that Sewer Pack brought up. One component would be the map, one component would be the supply source, another component would be the wastewater treatment facility. There's multiple components. What we need to focus on is the supply plan, or I'm sorry, the water service plan. Because the plan, if it changes, if they don't get Great Lakes diversion water, we're out of the plan. It reverts back to that map. So that affords us the protections that we've been looking for with regards to the shallow aquifer here and the city's ability to tap those high-capacity wells.
So by working on a new one, we don't negate the other one?
According to Attorney Lang, according to Joe, yes.
And I'll just add this, nothing taking away from the De La Mora firm. Attorney Lang is, by my, which doesn't matter, I think he's viewed widely as a very strong attorney with regard to water issues. He has won a Wisconsin Supreme Court case, which was a precedent-setting case in the Lake Beulah water issues, which is what brought us to him in the first place. He has argued on behalf of the town in the Lathers situation, successfully against the DNR. I see, for my liking, that I would want to run any letter that we draft by him, because I personally feel that he is a much stronger on this issue attorney on our side, and that's why I would want to run that letter past him. And I get it, he's really good and he gets paid a lot of money, and I respect him. It's our money, but he's the guy to go to with this issue.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the interests of the town would be best served on this very complicated matter if you basically work with one attorney. Because otherwise you're getting into a situation where you're going to see one doctor, you get a set of test results, and then you quickly call another doctor and you're asking for a reaction to the situation. And professionally, as you saw my response to Mr. Laska, I'm put in a position where I don't have sufficient information, and yet reasonably you want a response to keep the momentum going. So we would have absolutely no objection to your working with Mr. Lang. There's no question he has had extensive experience in litigating against the DNR, so that if we are relying on information that has come from the DNR, is being interpreted by SewerPAC, he's in a position to hold them to their position in a litigation posture. This is too major an issue for this community to basically go back and forth for the sake of expediency.
Hector? Can you, when Mike asked you if this is going to affect our other contract, what was your opinion?
Well, as I said, I don't have enough information to really give you an opinion, quite honestly.
Joe, you already have the opinion from Dean Lang?
We've had that discussion quite clearly and candidly, and that discussion happened, for your pleasure, Brian, during the time that there were only 2 board members serving in the community. There was a 1-week period where Mike and I were the only 2 supervisors, and I reached out to Dean Lang because the city sent us a second letter removing their offer, reneging on their November 8th letter, and I wanted to respond to that letter. So we sought Dean's counsel on that and discussed it. Dean and I discussed it at length about the process that we went through, and I subsequently, to Dean's advice, sent a letter to the city reaffirming, as Angie had done previously, that that agreement was viewed by the town as a contractual agreement and that it was in place and in effect, and had received that letter on the 15th, and it was CC to common council, the whole list of people at the city, so that they all got it, which they received on the 16th, which was that Tuesday.
All right, so are you advocating that we have somebody, Dean Lang or somebody from his firm here then Monday night?
No, gosh, no. He's really expensive.
Yep.
I would say that we can put our heads together. We did it in the past. I don't believe that this letter will look very much different than the September 18th offer that the previous board made to the city. I think there are some differences that will occur, and I think there'll be some significant differences within it. But I think we'll be able to draft it. I expect it's a 1 to 2 page kind of a thing. We can send it over to Lang's office and have it reviewed and submit it. It should be a pretty cut and dry process, I would think. Might take us, golly, if it takes us an hour of his time to review it, I'd be surprised.
Anybody else? Let's vote.
You got the motion, everyone's got the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
You gotta call for the opposed.
Any opposed?
Mary, you gotta read the total. 5-0. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you go on to item 6 and leave current business, I want to bring to the attention of the town board an additional step that I have confirmed in the aftermath of the question of the appointment of the Plan Commission members that needs to be completed in order to validate the designation of Robert Stigler and Renee Ramirez in the position of Plan Commission members. Unfortunately, we have another example of inconsistency between provisions in the town ordinances with recently enacted, as compared to when the town ordinances were enacted, provisions of the state statute. Generally, to the extent that provisions in the local ordinance are more restrictive than the state statute when there is not a conflict with a matter of statewide importance, the local ordinances control. What makes this situation complicated is that the provisions for a plan commission really reside with the city ordinances. We are adopting village powers, and in adopting village powers, we are then subject to modifications of the state statute, and there has been a modification which is lacking from this provision here, which indicates that the appointment is indeed by town board chairperson, but the appointment of those citizen members is subject to confirmation by the town board. It would be my strong recommendation that the board tonight take a vote on these individuals so that there is no question as to the validity of their appointment.
Can we take them together?
Whatever the wish of the body might be.
Is there a motion?
You're looking at me. I don't know anything about them. I don't know their credentials, the plan commission. Plan commission.
We'll table it.
Oh, great, table it, and if we can get a resume or something for them, I'd be happy to see who they are. Because it's a very important body that advises us on issues that are unique to that area. So I'll make a
Motion to table?
Sure.
Second?
Second.
Table. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I would also ask for leave from the town to draft and prepare an amendment to our Plan Commission Ordinance 2-5-3. The problem that the town is having here is not unique to the town. This is endemic amongst all municipalities because every time the state legislature meets, the ground shifts legally, so to speak. And most communities are not in a financial position to comb the new legislation and modify their ordinances. Many communities, what they attempt to do is, as they identify soft areas, if you will, they try to correct them.
I'd make a motion to authorize you to bring us language to modify that ordinance to bring it into consistency with the state statute.
Second on that.
Oh.
All in favor?
Can I just discussion? I mean, I certainly understand the need to do that, but my concern, I guess, is a little bit more global. I mean, it seems like every time we turn here, we find that we are not up to speed with state statutes with our town ordinances. I mean, where are we going with that? I mean,
I'm sorry?
where are we gonna go with that part of it? I mean, we have, I'm looking at this from a global perspective. I mean, we have the whole kerfluffle, or whatever you wanna call it, with taking office and that type of thing. Maybe that's not a topic for discussion tonight, but it seems to me like we have a whole lot of things that have been neglected and need to be attended to. And maybe that's not a discussion for tonight.
It's not, but it
I'll
does
support
need
the
to be.
motion, but every time we turn around the meeting here, we're talking about conflicts between our town ordinances and state statutes. That's not good. I'll support the motion, but it's bigger than this, guys.
Motion.
Is there a second on?
Mike, second.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Oh, yeah, sorry, motion carries 5-0.
Lastly,
Before, not to jump in, I'm gonna jump in. In light of your comment, Brian, I would like to make a motion that on the next meeting agenda, we list 2 particular ordinances that I know of that need to be reviewed. One would be the one that you spoke of, which would be the elections ordinance. The other one would be our staff positions. Currently, our town ordinances, we have a town planner physically. We just do not have a town planner by ordinance. So he has no duties described or any of that stuff. So I think we should put on the next meeting agenda to at least address those 2, and the one that Mr. Bealmore will bring language to.
And my comment would be, I agree with you, and there may be more. I don't think it's appropriate to make a motion for that tonight. I mean, that's not on our agenda or anything, but I completely agree with you, that's an appropriate thing to do.
And I'm just saying, it would be an appropriate thing to, my motion is to place it on the agenda. We can't discuss it or exercise it, but.
All I'm saying is, I'm not gonna quibble with you, but I don't think it's appropriate even to make that kind of a motion tonight. Let's just do it. If you wanna have the motion, fine, let's, you know.
Okay, thanks. So there's a motion to put those 2 items on.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Lastly, anybody opposed? And it carries 5-0. I'll save you the threat. Lastly, authorize to pay the bills. We have $25,764.42.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Did you speak? I'm sorry.
I just have a general question. We used to have a little column there on the agenda for referrals and, what was the other word that was used?
Concerns.
Is that an oversight?
No, it was taken out.
Why?
Because there was no specificity to it regarding what those things, those referrals and concerns need to be agendized.
I thought we used that area so they could be agendized.
Based on advice from council, it was taken out.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Someone motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.